Welcome to the overview of the policy track and submission process for MCH's Innovation Hub. We'll start by going over the various designations for the policy track of the MCH Innovations Database. The goal of the policy track is to identify examples of model evidence-based MCH policies that policymakers and MCH professionals can use as blueprints to inform future policies that benefit MCH populations. There are three policy designations that are separated thematically rather than based on level of evidence, as in the practice track. These designations are policy development, policy implementation, and policy evaluation. These designations are what separates the Innovation Hub policy database from others, in that MCH is focused on the process of each of these stages of the policy process, rather than solely the content of the policy. These designations seek to address the mechanism of policy development, implementation, and evaluation so that other organizations and policymakers can understand and learn from each other. To receive the policy development designation, a big P or little p policy must have meaningfully involved the people most impacted by the policy in its development, addressed a documented need, be able to clearly articulate intended goals and outcomes for target populations, and describe health equity considerations related to the policy. To receive the policy implementation designation, a big P or little p policy must be implemented using the best available evidence to guide implementation efforts, make changes to implementation based on unintended consequences or feasibility concerns, and seek input from key community stakeholders during planning and implementation. To receive the policy evaluation designation, a big P or little p policy must have a strong evaluation plan and methods, demonstrate the impact of the policy on MCH populations using various forms of evaluation data, assess both unintended and intended consequences of the policy, and subsequently make necessary modifications based on these consequences, and demonstrate how the policy advanced health equity and addressed disparities. Moving on to the policy submissions process. The policy submission process is rolling, meaning that you can submit a policy year-round rather than during our biannual practice reviews, and that the policy submission form is up on our website year-round. There is one unified policy submission form that includes all of the questions for all three designations. A policy can be submitted for multiple designations at the same time. The submitter would just have to ensure that the relevant questions are answered on the form. Once those forms are completed, they are submitted to evidence@mchip.org for review. There is also an overview sheet with all of the designation criteria available on MCH's website for your review and convenience. After the submission form is completed and submitted to our evidence inbox, which is evidence@mchip.org, it goes through a review process during which 3 reviewers are matched with your policy based on thematic experience and interests, who will assess the submission based on the designation criteria mentioned earlier. Reviewers use the same designation criteria sheet that we provide to submitters, so everyone is working off the same information. Those reviewers will often provide feedback to the submitter and will decide if the policy is appropriate for the designation or designations applied for based on the information provided in the submission. After submission, and if accepted, the submitter will be asked to fill out the database entry survey, which collects basic logistic and background information that will be used to create your policy page within the MCH Innovations Database. The submitter will also need to fill out the policy summary and implementation guidance handout. The policy summary and implementation guidance handout provides those accessing the MCH Innovations Database with the information necessary to get a feel for your policy, with the goal of potentially replicating your policy or working with you, the practice developer, in the future. The content of this handout is matched to the questions on the policy submission form, which the Innovation Hub team will use to pre-populate the handout and send it to you, the submitter, for review and approval. Potential benefits to submitting your policy to the MCH Innovation Database are possible replication of your policy in another context, receiving national recognition for your work, and receiving feedback from MCH professionals who are reviewing your submission. In submitting to the database, you are also contributing to advancing and expanding the MCH evidence base. Having a policy in the database can also bolster the credibility of your policy and grants you access to AmChip staff for ongoing coaching and technical assistance. We'll close out with some tips for potential submission. Ensure that, as you fill out the submission form, that you write your responses that the reviewer has never heard of your policy and provide appropriate context. Ensure that you answer all parts of each question and, where possible, provide evidence or data to support your responses. If you have any questions about anything you've heard in this video, please don't hesitate to contact us at evidence@amchip.org, and a member of the Innovation Hub team will get back to you. Thank you for your attention.